You are listening to Small Business Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives small business owners the straight talk on productivity, time management, business systems, leading your teams, strategic decision-making, and mindset. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the productivity specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. Today is episode 366, Pause to Break the People-Pleasing Cycle in Business. If you're a small business owner who wants to learn effective business strategies, improve time management, and elevate productivity to maximize profit, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Are you a people pleaser? Perhaps someone's told you that, or maybe you just know that you've been navigating life trying to make sure everyone is happy. Just like a gracious birthday host, or maybe your people-pleasing tendencies only exist in the realm of your business, as you've got your eye on success and will do whatever it takes to create happy clients. No matter if your people-pleasing tendencies stemmed from a fear of rejection or abandonment, low self-esteem, the need for control, past traumas, cultural or societal expectations, a desire to avoid conflict, empathy and compassion, or simple, pure intentions, have you considered the cost of your people-pleasing to your time, energy, and finances? How about to your own happiness, your business, and your life? Do you consider those sacrifices acceptable in the name of pleasing unhappy people? Stick around because in today's episode, I'm going to discuss how you can break your cycle of people-pleasing and produce win-win outcomes from sticky situations. Before we dive in, I want to invite you to take my next level business owner quiz. Find out what's most holding you back from taking your business to the next level, and then receive a curated playlist of specific episodes from the podcast that address those challenges with strategies you can implement immediately. Head on over to amberdelagarza.com/quiz. 3 short minutes, take the quiz today. amberdelagarza.com/quiz. And now, let's get to the straight talk. Today's episode was inspired by my client, Nicole. Nicole was an admitted people pleaser, but recently she had an aha moment during one of our coaching sessions in which she came up with the phrase, pause before I please, to combat her knee-jerk reaction to people please unhappy clients. I mean, isn't that a valuable nugget? When I heard her say that phrase, I was thinking, damn, that is good. That is exactly how to handle future situations she finds herself in. Pause before I please. We can all relate to wanting to have happy customers or clients and be willing to put in extra effort to make them happy when needed. However, extreme people-pleasing is not the answer. Pausing is. When a client expresses discontentment with a product or service you provide, don't resort to dysfunctional people-pleasing tendencies of jumping through hoops and bending over backwards to please a customer or client. Not without first taking time to pause and contemplate possible solutions. Run with the motto, pause before I please, to relieve yourself of the unnecessary consequences of engaging in extreme people-pleasing. That goes for your clients, your vendors, your team members, and really anytime you find yourself in a situation that you may have a tendency to do extreme people-pleasing. Before we jump into the specifics of how to pause before you please, let's explore why it's crucial to make a focused effort to avoid defaulting to extreme people-pleasing with your clients, vendors, and team members. The reasons I'm going to share with you on why you may want to avoid defaulting to extreme people pleasing often are not thought of in the moment, forgotten, or just thrown out the window when we find ourselves reacting in the moment. I'm going to first dive into client and why we may want to pause before we please. And while we pause, what we may want to consider. First, protecting profitability. Constantly bending over backwards to please every client request can lead to scope creep, unpaid extra work, and ultimately reduce profitability. Saying yes to everything might seem good in the short term, but it can bankrupt your business in the long run. You need to be able to price your services fairly and stick to agreed upon terms to protect the profitability. There's so many examples of, there being errors, mistakes, someone's not happy with it. And we go immediately to, let me comp it. Let me give you free hours. Let me pay to replace the thing 100%. And when we're thinking through the lens of protecting profitability, there may be many other options available to us that still makes the client happy, but isn't a knee-jerk reaction to eating the cost at 100%. Perhaps you offer them a replacement at cost. So you're not making money on the replacement, but it's at a deep discount to the client, but you're not losing money. Perhaps it's something that can be repaired and not replaced. Potentially, by pausing, you can come up with a solution that isn't a financial saving of the situation. They may not need you to financially make it right, but maybe it's an apology or recognizing that something went wrong. Don't always jump to eating the cost of making something right. Next, maintaining boundaries and respect. Clients who know you'll do anything for them may become demanding and disrespectful of your time and expertise. Setting clear boundaries from the start establishes a professional relationship built on mutual respect. This also prevents clients from taking advantage of you. And so, in an effort to make your clients happy and you're bending over backwards, people that are trying to take advantage of that will. So we want to ensure that we can make our clients happy within reason while still maintaining professional boundaries and mutual respect. Next, to consider attracting the right clients. Being clear about your services, prices, and boundaries, you'll attract who are a good fit for you and your business. Trying to please everyone means you might end up working with clients who are constantly unhappy or a drain on your resources. Focusing on the right clients leads to more fulfilling and profitable relationships. And what I'll say here is that I honestly believe that you cannot make everybody happy, and you should not try to make everybody happy. And so in that moment of pause, really considering, is this concession, is this thing that I'm willing to do to quote unquote make them happy actually going to make them happy? And if that's not true and you don't really have confidence in that, potentially the reality is that they are not the right client for you, and you may need to go your separate ways, terminate the contract, stop working with them. Every business is different, but I do know that if you are in business long enough, you will run across clients that are not a right fit for you. And so the best decision you can do, the most profitable decision, the less stressful decision is going to identify that and then go your separate ways. Next, delivering quality work. So overpromising to please a client can lead to rushed work, mistakes, and ultimately a lower quality product or service. It is so much better to be realistic about what you can deliver and then meet those expectations consistently. In fact, sometimes our knee-jerk reaction is to overpromise. And I think that the key here is underpromise and overdeliver. And so in that moment of pausing, you can really consider, what is the capacity of your team? What is the skill set? What is it that you can actually offer to them and not just say something to try and make them happy in the moment and then not be able to fulfill that? Next, I'm going to dive into vendors. With so many businesses, our vendors are essentially like business partners. Our vendors are an extension of how we can serve our clients. And I find that there is a lot of opportunity to consider that relationship and ensure that you are not trying to overly or extremely people please to keep that relationship. I also want to say that this section here can be an extension of like your contractors. So if you have contractors in your business, independent contractors that do work in your business or do work for your clients, just about everything I'm going to share in this section goes for that as well. First is negotiating fair prices. If you're always trying to people please vendors, you might end up paying more than you should. Negotiating effectively is essential for managing costs and maintaining healthy profit margins. Vendors respect businesses that know their worth and are willing to negotiate. And in this example, what I see more often is in the vein of people pleasing, not bringing up the conversation of negotiating better prices. And so this is like an avoidance of a very important conversation in the effort to make everybody happy and people please. And some of the advice that I give my clients is, I get wanting to be kind, but being kind to your business and advocating for your business is the right thing to do. And I often find that vendors respect that conversation. They expect that conversation. And they're not going to do anything that they are not willing to do or can't do, but they're certainly not going to offer a deeper discount without you asking. Next, setting clear expectations. Just like with clients, clear communication and established expectations are essential with vendors. Don't be afraid to push back on deadlines or pricing if they don't align with your business needs. This ensures that you get what you need, when you need it, and at a fair price. So often, our clients' experience with our businesses is because of how those vendors show up to serve our clients. And so they're 100% an extension of your business. And so in the last example about negotiating fair prices, it was advocating for your business. In this one, it's often about advocating for your client and having these clear expectations of how you want your clients to be treated with regards to deadlines, how they show up in their businesses, in their homes, and having those clear communication. And if there's a challenge or if they're not doing what was expected, being willing to have those sometimes what can feel like difficult conversations. Next, maintaining control. Being a people pleaser can put you at the mercy of your vendors, and you need to be in control of your supply chain and ensure that vendors are meeting your requirements, not the other way around. Building mutual beneficial relationships. Strong vendor relationships are so important, but they should be mutually beneficial. You shouldn't be afraid to switch vendors if needs aren't being met. A good vendor respects your business and understands the need for fair pricing and clear expectations. So this last one is, once you've had those conversations and you've clearly communicated, because you're advocating for your business, because you're advocating for your clients, and that relationship does not get better, I want to encourage you that it is okay to say that my vendor relationship should be mutually beneficial, and don't lead with people pleasing, lead with what's the best decision moving forward. And if that means you have to change vendors, so be it. And the third area we're going to cover today is team members and people pleasing. Something to consider is earning respect. Team members respect leaders who are decisive and fair, not those who try to please everyone. Trying to be everyone's friend can undermine your authority and make it difficult to manage effectively. And I just want you to think of your own experience of leading your team. Has there been a time where your knee-jerk reaction was to say yes and to people please and make an exception, and that's not actually what you wanted to do? And so now there is some resentment in the relationship. Or perhaps you said yes to something once or as an exception, and then the employee or team member took it as free reign to do it all the time. And I'm just thinking, like, just off the cuff here, for example, looking the other way or being forgiving when they show up late because there was something going on in their home, in their family, whatever that might be. And in that moment, that is exactly what you wanted to do, is lead with grace and understanding. And it's not a big deal. They showed up late. But what can happen is that first initial niceness it's then taken advantage of, and now they're coming in late all the time. And so it is okay that you said it was okay once, and it is no longer okay in the future. I just want to repeat that again. You can make an exception. You can say yes to something and actually mean it, but it did not give permission for that to change the dynamic of expectations or that relationship, because over time, it's going to create resentment. So in this here example, I just want to summarize because I went in two different directions. One is you make an exception you didn't want to, it creates resentment. You made an exception you wanted to, and then the other person took advantage of that exception and now became the norm, and there's resentment. And so when we're looking at being incredible leaders and having businesses that we enjoy going into the office and enjoy working our team with, resentment is not the feeling that comes top to mind to me in wanting to have. And so that could be rooted in people pleasing if you're not really considering when you're making exceptions, how are you maintaining the respect, mutual respect? Next, setting clear expectations. Team members need clear expectations and consistent feedback. Avoiding difficult conversations to please everyone can lead to confusion, resentment, and poor performance. So this one goes hand in hand with the respect and some of the examples I was previously giving, but clear expectations can run across the board. It's not just about, are you late? Did you take a day off? This could be job performance. This could be how they're doing specific work in the business. Anywhere that you need to be giving clear guidelines and expectations, it is actually a gift. It's a gift of clarity, because most people that want to do a good job love the clarity so that they know what a good job looks like. And constant feedback, again, for the right team member, that constant positive feedback, even though it may be a negative topic, it can be seen as positive because you're looking to help, to coach, to take them to that next level. And they are able to more clearly show up in a way that is of service to the business. So, setting clear expectations will prevent confusion, resentment, and poor performance. And so in those moments of pausing and not just giving an answer or avoiding a situation, you might want to consider, actually, the best thing to do in this situation is not lead with people pleasing, but to lead with clear expectations. Next, creating a productive work environment. A people-pleasing leader might avoid making tough decisions that are necessary for the good of the team. This can create a toxic work environment where underperformance is tolerated and high performers feel undervalued. Wow, I know that you as a business owner have worked in a business, at a company, or had a job in the past where you were doing good and those around you that were not doing good, there was no repercussions, there was no course correction. And it really affects the morale. I can tell you specifically from my own experience, I've seen that time and time again. And it is hard to want to continue to show up and do your best when poor performance is either being ignored, overlooked, or rewarded. Next, delegating effectively. Effective delegation requires clear communication and the ability to hold the team members accountable. People-pleasing leaders often struggle with delegation because they're afraid of upsetting someone. Also, people-pleasing here is not just about upsetting, but it could be holding back work because you're overthinking about, you're overloading them, you're giving them too much work, you don't want to stress them out. And so in an effort to make them happy, even though you don't know what happy looks like for them or overloaded looks like for them because of avoiding those conversations, because you're leading with people pleasing, you're hoarding the work, you're holding on to it, and you're not actually delegating it. This can lead to burnout and hinder the growth of the business and the team. I've had this conversation so many times, so I will just briefly tell you this. If you are holding back work because you think that you may overload a team member, don't make that assumption. Have that conversation. We are doing it from a good place. Like we are protecting, we feel as though we are protecting that team member. But man, sometimes assumptions are just stories we have in our head and there's no actual facts to them. And so I always suggest that my clients fact check that assumption. I just covered many great reasons to disallow yourself from defaulting to extreme people pleasing. Now let's take a look at exactly what pausing before pleasing can look like. Before I jump in, I want to remind you that simple solutions do not mean easy, but simple solutions can often have a huge impact and are worth implementing. For all the reasons I have shared in this podcast so far, the solution here is actually quite simple. And so as we're diving into it, do not let your brain say, I'm dismissing this. Actually, let it be easy. That's one of my own affirmations in my own life and business is let it be easy. And this simple solution can be easy if you don't fight it and you can see the value that it has in giving yourself the time and space to actually think through what alternative options are if I'm not only seeing this situation through people pleasing. Okay, so what does actually pausing before you please look like? It could look or sound like, allow me to circle back about this. Let me take some time to think about that. I will work on some solutions we can consider together. Giving yourself and communicating to the other person that you need some time to pause and think. Just a simple phrase like that can disarm your client, vendor, or team member and buy you time to brainstorm solutions that can work for both parties. What we're trying to do is create time and space for you not to just reactively knee-jerk, maybe lean into your tendency of extreme people-pleasing and to consider all of the things that I shared with you thus far in the podcast. And in those shares of why you may want to avoid extreme people-pleasing is that there are going to be a lot of gray areas. And so in that moment where we have that knee-jerk reaction to people please, we may think of things as black and white or all or nothing. And I'm here to tell you with some time and space to think the solution is often going to be in the gray space. When you've given yourself some time to pause, I want you to contemplate solutions. And here's what not to do. So while you're contemplating those solutions, don't make assumptions. When we don't pause before people pleasing, we're often in the moment making assumptions, and making those assumptions is not the best way to solve challenges. 2, when you're pausing, don't jump to thinking everything is your fault. I hear this time and time again with my clients, is that the undertone or the thought pattern is actually, it's all my fault. And that's not always the case. And sometimes in that moment of pausing, we can regain a different perspective to see things clear. People pleasing can also be magnified if you're not confident or jump into overthinking everything and thinking everything is your fault. Next, in that time of pause, do not ignore your client agreement, terms, and policies. In fact, I find it beneficial to consult with your client agreement, terms, and policies, as those were created to protect the business and often to protect the client and the relationship between the two. And if you consult with your client agreement, terms, and policies, chances are this situation was already identified on how it was going to be solved, but in a non-emotional, non-stressful situation. So consult your client agreement, terms, and policies. Next, during this pausing time, do not avoid conflict and discomfort. In fact, while that may be your tendency as a people pleaser because you dislike confrontation and that you'll go at great lengths to keep the peace, the fear of disagreement or tension can actually create more stress. And avoiding conflict and discomfort and having that the lens in which you're looking at solving this problem with actually probably is not allowing you to have your own truth. So as you're pausing, the answer may be on the other side of a hard conversation or discomfort. But when you're able to zoom out, the path through that is to get you to the right side of a solution that's a win-win for everyone. Next, during your time of pause, do not only consider yourself and the other party. I shared with you earlier, and I'll remind you now, there are other stakeholders in your business. Consider who and what else your solutions or decisions could affect. For example, you need your business to be able to be financially healthy after all, so that you can pay your team members and your vendors and bring home a paycheck to your family. So when you are looking for solutions, consider your family, your vendors, your team members, your clients. It is not just the two people that are having that conversation in that moment. And by allowing yourself to pause, you can really consider the other stakeholders. While the happiness of your clients is important, and I really do understand that, the happiness of your vendors, the happiness of your team members, everyone is important. But being a people pleaser can be detrimental to your small business. Instead of defaulting to people pleasing all the time, or extreme people pleasing as we've described in this episode, focus on coming up with solutions to weigh in the benefits and costs to not only the other party, but also to everyone and everything that will be impacted by the final decision on how you move forward and how they will be impacted. Unhappy clients can become happy clients, and any situation can become a win-win across the board. But to do that, you have to break the cycle of people pleasing and instead live out the motto, pause before I please. I have loved having you listen to this episode of the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. And I sure hope you found the conversation about people pleasing to be valuable. But I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without action, nothing will change for you or your business. So the action is simple today. I'm inviting you to pause before you please next time you find yourself in a situation where your default is to do extreme people pleasing. I shared a lot of examples of how people pleasing can show up in our businesses today. And if you resonated with any of those or many of those, the solution can be simpler than you thought. So by pausing and breaking the pattern, the knee-jerk reaction pattern to people please, you will be creating new behavior patterns. And through that will be growth, opportunity, and I am so excited to think about how this can actually change and transform your experience of being a business owner. So, the action request today is practice pausing before you please. If you are looking for a business coach that can help you navigate these conversations, that can help you identify behaviors and patterns that are not serving you in your business, this is just one example of the type of coaching that I do with my clients. To learn more and to schedule a discovery call, head on over to amberdelagarza.com. I look forward to talking with you soon. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you enjoyed today's episode and think that it will be valuable to another business owner, please share this episode with a fellow business owner friend. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.